Fantasy football is all about panicking. And so everyone has a lot to panic about after week one, but some people have some celebrating to do as well. And so, in the spirit of what we did on Monday, breaking the teams into 4 categories, I thought I would break down some of the fantasy football performances from week one into 4 categories. So, we have broken them up into confirmation bias. We have wrong, but I'm not worried. We have, well, I'll wait and see. And we have, I might just have been wrong on that one. And so we'll start with the positive, because your boy likes a boost, and go with the confirmation. And the very first one was Jameson Williams. I don't know if he is going to be yeah. I don't know if he is going to be if he's going to be 5 receptions for 112 yards and a touchdown every week, or if he's going to be more Deshaun Jackson, where he just kind of pops in, has a big game, and then for 3 weeks, you don't see him. I don't know if he's going to be that, but I have said for so long, talent is not an issue with this kid. If he can stay on the field and just have a regular season, he is going to be really, really good, and especially in this offense. And this is the thing that this offense has been missing for so long, is a big play threat over the top. Their big plays were their big plays were Amon-Ra St. Brown gets a quick pass, and because he is also a quick human being, he just kind of through everyone, and he ends up getting big plays. I do have a bit of a concern about him. I don't think I have him in any of these categories. I didn't think that Jameson Williams' success would come at the expense of Amon-Ra St. Brown. I thought it would kind of just unlock something different in this offense, but Amon-Ra was really limited in week one against the LA Rams, and Jameson wasn't. He was everything I thought he would be. This is the exact scenario that I thought Jameson Williams would thrive in, and as one of my kind of sleeper picks of the year, I am so happy with how he looked in week one. Rashee Rice as well. As the mock draft season went on, and if you missed it, I did a mock draft from every spot in a 12-team draft. As the drafts went on, we were getting closer and closer to the regular season, and it was like, okay, it's looking like this kid ain't going to get suspended for all the stuff he did in the offseason. And he's pretty good, and he's Patrick Mahomes' number one receiver. So we need to start moving this guy up a little bit, and was able to get him in a couple of leagues, and he looks like he is a legitimate number one wide receiver. Now, not every team is going to be able to be just assaulted over the middle like the Baltimore Ravens were in that game, but I don't know how much Cincinnati is going to provide resistance in that area either. So that's going to be very interesting. Saquon Barkley is another one. You knew the talent going in. I do think that they are... I do think they kind of highlighted him a little bit in this one to just like really drive home what they were looking to do, but you know how good he can be, and you know how good that offensive line can be, and so I think he really balled out in a way that I think is going to be sustainable. I felt so good about a few of my running back picks. We'll lump them all in here. Joe Mixon, J.K. Dobbins, and Jerome Ford. All guys who were being drafted after the 4th round, in Ford and Dobbins' case, significantly after. And you were looking, like, Mixon, there isn't a whole lot of competition there, and he's still fine. Like, I think the second that a running back gets cut, it's, oh, yeah, all downhill from, remember Sean Alexander, how good he was, and then he was, remember that? Oh, yeah, no, it's all, this guy is the next Jamal Charles. It's just going to fall off. It's like, he's not 30 yet, you know? And I do, like, that works out for a lot of guys, but some of these guys are just elite athletes, and they're going to figure it out. Like, I think that course correction is coming a little bit. And Joe Mixon really showed it up. He is still a good player in a good offense. J.K. Dobbins, it's a little bit of the Jameson Williams part. Jameson Williams missed a whole bunch of time because he's an idiot. J.K. Dobbins did because his body let him down. And so I think that is a player that is going to continue to have these types of weeks and continue to be like the guy for the LA Chargers. And Jerome Ford, I was saying it for a while. Jerome Ford is a good running back who is the number one option on a team. Now, he's a good running back who's the number one option on a team. That offense sucks and the offensive line sucks, but he at least is going to get some options. And look at that, he got his way into the end zone because sometimes good players can just outplay bad situations. B. McDizzle, 22. Rice and Worthy, how do you think that will be affected with Hollywood coming back? I don't think it will be affected all that much. I'm not a big Hollywood guy. And so I don't think I don't think you see what Kansas City did with Worthy in week 1, with Rice in week 1, and think, okay, well, Hollywood Brown is going to take something away from those guys. I just don't see it. Like there's possibly going to be a little less opportunity for one of them. And honestly, I don't think it affects Worthy all that much. Like those passes over the middle I don't think it'll affect Rice all that much. Those passes over the middle that he was getting, I think that those are going to be his, basically. I do think that the Worthy stuff, you do have to watch it a little bit, given the similarities between him and Hollywood Brown. I think a lot of what Worthy is going to be is busting it downfield and trying to take the top off of a defense. And if the defense is going to, no, we're not going to worry about that, and still kind of collapse down on Brown and Rice, then Worthy's going to have a good day over the top. And if teams are going to continue in that too high shell and just stay back and back and back and back and back, Rice is going to get his underneath, and I do think Hollywood is going to get some underneath as well. But I think those two are still going to be kind of the focal points of this offense, and Brown is going to be a bit more of the wide receiver 3 with that team. So I don't think Rice and Worthy get affected too much by that. All right, next category. Wrong but not worried. Derek Carr. I absolutely did not see that type of performance from Derek Carr at any point this season. And so I am absolutely just chalking it up to, it was week 1 against a very, very bad defense in Carolina. I think bad days are still ahead for Carr. I have Tua on here. This one is maybe a bit more of a real life football one than anything else, but I thought it would look a little bit better. And as I mentioned before, it's week 1. Preseason was what it was, or wasn't what it wasn't. And I do think that he is going to still have some good days and still be able to provide some good fantasy days for other people in this offense. Stephon Diggs had a very good opportunity to put up some fantasy points for the Houston Texans. He puts up 2 touchdowns. I was avoiding Stephon Diggs. I thought, like, yeah, it's like the Hollywood Brown conversations. Yeah, we know him. He's the wide receiver 3 here. And I still think he is the wide receiver 3 here. Now, the touchdown volume is absolutely something that is like, oh boy, if he's just their red zone target, that's going to be a really good job for him, because they're going to be in the red zone a lot, and he is still kind of good at catching the football. If he can just get open in short space, that's going to be something I wasn't overly anticipating. So I still don't think Stephon Diggs is going to have a very good year this year. I still think the order you want the pass catchers with the Houston Texans is Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and Stephon Diggs. I just think Diggs' good day was bolstered by a couple of touchdowns, but it's at least on the radar a little bit. Chase Brown, I thought he'd have more opportunities with Cincinnati. And now it was a weird game for the Bengals, as I don't know if they were anticipating the resistance they got from the New England Patriots. I'm certain they didn't expect to lose that game. And so I still think that there is going to be opportunities to come. And again, we didn't draft Chase Brown thinking that he'd be the guy in week 1. I think we drafted Chase Brown with the understanding that over time, he was going to show that he was the better running back in that situation, and he is going to get his, so to speak. So I still think that there are going to be good days ahead for Chase Brown. And the last one was Jalen Warren. He didn't have much of a game in this one. And you got worried about the injury. And so that's why we kind of started avoiding him late in the mock draft process. But I do think that he is still going to be a valuable part of the Pittsburgh Steelers offense as he gets a little bit healthier and as they start to work him in a little bit more. So I'm not too worried about that. The wait and see. These are ones where I think I was a little bit wrong on it. And I'm not fully changing my opinion yet, but I have at least started to remove the case of the panic button a little bit. And the first is Anthony Richardson. I didn't think that we would just turn him into what everyone thought Jamarcus Russell was going to be, where he's going to run a bunch and just throw it 1,002 yards down the field. You would like to see a few more completions, and I want to see a few more completions before I fully admit that maybe I was a little bit wrong in drafting some other quarterbacks ahead of him. But I'm at least noting how aggressive he was in pushing the ball down the field. And again, in a week 1 where maybe timing is a little bit off on some certain things, a couple of those deep ones hit to Adonai Mitchell, and all of a sudden it's a big week. And so I can't, in all good conscience, put out Adonai Mitchell as a fantasy football waiver wire suggestion while then also saying, yeah, but Anthony Richardson ain't going to be shit. Because, well, he's missing those deep passes, but he just missed the deep passes to Adonai, and he's getting those targets, right? So I do think I have to be maybe a little bit more of a believer in Anthony Richardson. Kyler Murray only getting 14.5 fantasy points against Buffalo's defense. That was supposed to be one of the games where he just locked on and off they go and just dominated, right? So, and put up some really big fantasy points, kind of setting the tone for the season. He didn't do that. 14.5 fantasy points. He was a better real life quarterback than he was a fantasy quarterback. And that is concerning to me a little bit with changes that have been made to the offense and young weapons being brought in. I think we all just kind of assumed Marvin Harrison was going to be amazing from from day one. And it's going to take time to build up that kind of rapport with the young receiver. So that one was a bit of a, oh shit, this might be a bit more of a work in progress than I thought it was going to be. Jackson Smith and Jigba. He was one of the ones that we said in the middle part of the draft, we want two of JSN, Christian Watson, and Jamison Williams. And that started to expand to include Brian Thomas with Jacksonville and Jerome Ford with the Cleveland Browns at running back. We wanted a couple of those guys in there. And JSN was kind of the one we always ended up having to draft first because of where the ADP went. He wasn't looked at all in this game. And the thought coming in was a new offensive philosophy where the pace is going to be picked up a little bit more. And so they're just going to run more plays, so he's going to have more opportunities. They also used him almost exclusively in the slot last year, and that is not his bag at all. And so I thought there would be maybe a bit more of an adjustment in his role, but it all looked the same in week one. I do think they ran more plays, but his role looked the same. And so if nothing else, this could go into the I think I might just be wrong category, because I think it is again going to be DK Metcalf gets his, and then it's a toss-up between Lockett and JSN. And I thought it was going to veer a little bit more on the JSN side of things, but I thought all three would be able to feed in that offense. And week one against the Denver Broncos defense that has like one good player on it, I do have some concerns now that this maybe is just going to be the way it is. And that's the difficult part, again, about predicting changes in philosophy and changes in roles with teams, is that those can take some time. And so when you don't see it right away, it's tough to say, no. This thing that we've never seen before is actually going to happen. Ignore the fact that that one game looked like the 17 from the season before. Ignore that because the change is coming. It's a weird thing to try to double down on. And so, admittedly, I'm having a difficult time with it. Devontae Adams is up next. I thought at least Gardner Minshew would be able to get the ball to Devontae Adams and he was going to be able to put up fantasy points. One thing I did not anticipate is that the putting up of fantasy points was not going to include touchdowns ever for the Vegas Raiders. And so I just said, like, this is why you kind of look at sometimes talent over situation. Situations matter. And Devontae Adams is in a bad one. So, because I was drafting him as a wide receiver 1 in a lot of spots when you went running back in the first round, or if you just went with a bit more of a 0 RB type of approach, I was absolutely taking him as a wide receiver 2, but he's a second round pick that did not produce as a second round pick. And again, it looked a whole lot like the offense we saw last year, which is very concerning for Devontae Adams. And the last one was Tyjae Spears. I thought that he was going to look so clearly better than Tony Pollard that he was, by the end of the season, going to basically be the bell cow back out in Tennessee. One thing I said, I think it was an honorable mention in the things I'm worried I'm wrong about portion. There's just this thing in the back of my head that was like, you know what? Maybe Tony Pollard being bullshit in Dallas last year was more about Tony Pollard recovering from injury and now a full season removed from that. Maybe he gets a little bit better in these spots. And he looked like the far superior running back in week 1. And that concerned me quite a bit because the bank on this one was on the talent of Tyjae Spears. And that didn't win out. B McDizzle 22. What do you think about a trade worthy for DK? DK, that's very interesting. Boy, like, I know I just said I'm confident in the fact that Worthy is going to get his, but I think if you can, I'm assuming because this is 2 Worthy asks in a row, that you are the Worthy owner in this one. I think if you can turn Worthy into DK Metcalf. It's more reliable options. Like, yes, you are downgrading significantly in the talent of the offense, but DK Metcalf is, I think, like Seattle's offense, you know that the running backs are kind of going to be maybe a little bit more split than we thought. And one game it's going to be Lockett, one game maybe it's going to be JSN. But the thing you know for sure is DK Metcalf is getting his. And so to be able to lock in a guy that talented, I think it's just maybe a little bit more of a safer play for me. So I would trade Worthy for DK Metcalf. I would, yes. I think there are like maybe some circumstances where maybe you wouldn't. Like if your team is built like a juggernaut, and you just need some reliable points, I would go DK. If your team is kind of like mine in the Vampire League that we're doing with some of the some of our friends here in the Twitch stream, and you need maybe just a couple home run swings because your team is 20 points behind everyone weekly in the projections, then Worthy is a good play. So I think if your team, quite frankly, if your team really sucks and you need maybe a big boost, I would go with I would go with Xavier Worthy there, but I think for the most part I would want DK Metcalf over Worthy for the rest of the season. Things I'm worried I might just be wrong on. Jalen Hurts, he looked bad in that game. Now he is helped by the fact that the offensive line is great, and he is helped by the fact that he has incredible talent around him. But some of those decisions were horrendous. And when you see how they collapsed last year, and you just kind of explain away like, well, there was this, there was that, there was all these things going on, it looked again kind of the same as it did at the end of last year. And that song and dance did not end very well. Now, I didn't have any Jalen Hurts coming into this year, and so I don't. Maybe part of the I'm worried I'm wrong is I'm worried that like I still think that this offense maybe is going to have some issues, but I do think that there is going to be there are going to be weeks where he puts up numbers because the rest of the offense is just amazing, and so. I do think that it is this one maybe should have been just in the wait and see, but the decision making from Hurts really concerned me. And that's something at this point in his career now, given the experience he has, that should go away. I am giving him the slightest mulligan because the turf in Brazil was bad, and that can just kind of mess with someone's brain a little bit. So we will wait on that. Matthew Stafford's another one. I thought that Stafford was going to age out, and that was going to provide diminishing returns for everyone in this offense. He looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and that is, I think, big for Cooper Kupp, for when Nakua comes back for B McDizzle there, and for the running game as well, and for the tight ends that we said you should pick up now. Matthew Stafford being better, not only is something that I think is going to shift how I view their fantasy options, but kind of how I view the Rams in the NFL. I had them as a play to miss the playoffs this year, and then in the power rankings, if you're watching the whole show, they came in at 14. So I might already be shifting things a little bit here. I think I was wrong on the Jaden Reed, Christian Watson thing. I just felt like Watson has a lot of the talents that Reed has in a bit of a bigger frame, and he just kind of looks more like a number one wide receiver. But then you see the elite attributes that it looks like Reed has, and it feels like I kind of bet on the wrong horse there. I still think Watson is going to return the value that I had for him in those 7th, 8th, 9th rounds that we were getting when we were getting him in fantasy football drafts. But I don't know if he is going to be one of those league winners that I thought he was going to be, where you draft him there, and then by week 5, it's like, fuck, I know I drafted this guy in the 3rd round, but I can't not play Christian Watson right now, so we have to make a move here. I thought he was going to be that. And I was a little concerned with what I saw in week 1. And I think I'm just wrong because Jaden Reed looks now, and again, 1 week on weird turf, but Jaden Reed looked like the most talented wide receiver on that team. And I now think that may pull ahead as it goes along. Yeah, Crash, we got it worked out. I was explaining before when I decided to go live with these. I was like, all right, we're doing it big the whole way. We're gonna stream on multiple platforms. I'm gonna have a vertical cam here that I'm gonna be able to set up social media stuff on. It's gonna be perfect. And then after a couple of streams, I was like, why? let's make sure it works first, and then let's expand. So we're only on Twitch today, but we are working, and it's great. So that is fantastic. And then a couple of running backs I'm worried that I might be wrong on. Troy Pollard and Rico Dowdle. Pollard, like I said, I just thought he was going to be the second best running back in Tennessee. And so his stock was going to continue to drop and drop and drop. And I don't think that's going to be the case anymore. A little worried about that. A little worried that he's just going to be the guy out in Tennessee. And Rico Dowdle, I thought he was going to be the guy for the Dallas Cowboys, and Ezekiel Elliott wasn't going to be able to do a whole lot. And through 1 week, Zeke's getting a whole lot more of the looks, and Rico Dowdle is just kind of there. And so this was more a bet on the situation than the talent, which I don't always love doing. But I thought as we were getting down to the end of the draft that it wasn't going to be a big killer. But it does really feel like he is kind of just a guy. Crash, great to hear that the TikTok was working today. I know we were chatting offline, well, I guess online, but different platform, chatting on X about that. So happy you were able to get that to work. And thanks for letting me kind of talk out my technical woes with you in the DMs. And also thanks, Deeds, going out and like finding different suggestions and all of that really helped get us close to on track yesterday, and then we got there today. So the tech support in the chat, as always, very, very helpful. I did see Deeds asked this one before. I have worry about Dalton Kincaid, targeted twice with 1 catch. That is one for sure. And maybe just tight end in general, all of them looked a little bit off last in week 1. Like none of the main guys really put up big numbers, but the Dalton Kincaid one is very concerning because it was 2 tight ends a lot of the time, and it looked for Kincaid like the 2 tight end sets last year, and that meant a whole lot of him not getting the football. So yes, I think he is a talented player, and I think there are going to be games where he gets it, but to only get 2 targets in a game where they put up 34 points, I have real worry about that. I don't think you're sitting him. And I don't think, like, we gave out a couple tight end options on the waiver wire yesterday, or maybe we only gave out 1. Like Likely and Colby Parkinson. If you were able to get one of those, like maybe you consider sitting Kincaid this week, but I kind of think where you drafted him, you kind of got to play him. So yeah, these fantasy football discussions on the live shows have been great so far. Love that the questions are coming in. So we will definitely keep that going throughout the season.